Hello and welcome to another episode of Death by Bunjie. I went to the dentist this morning. My mouth is still a little funny. But what a perfect day to put in a food plot. We are at the Ridge staging food plot. I've joked about this before. Is it really a staging food plot when it is in fact the destination food source for deer on this property? I don't know. But you can see behind me, got my little workbench right there. Always keep a stump or two handy, you know, when you cut down your trees. I like to have a nice seat to sit on, little workbench, store my Gatorade and other refreshments for the morning's work here. Man, this is going to be great. I got to rake out these leaves by hand, and then I'm going to frost seed. It's not really frost seeding. It's going to be just seeding before a rain. Whole bunch of clover seed and some fertilizer and some lime. This, my friends, is the ultimate in clover fertilizer. That is a bag and another bottle of water too, but a bag of 21040. See if we can flip that over there and show you what we got. And also spin this down here. Look at that bad boy. Guaranteed analysis. 21040. That means that it is 2 on the nitrogen. Clover doesn't need nitrogen. Clover puts nitrogen back in the soil. It stores it right there in the soil for later use, for future food plots. It's 10, well, this times 2. 10 on the phosphorus, which most plants like a little phosphorus, so that's good for their clover food plot. And it is 40 on the potassium. In the past, when you can't get 21040, I like to use potash. Just put that on here. Potash is like 100% potassium, so it works great. Works great on the old food plots. But we also have up here, that's my lime, pelletized lime. Do 2 rounds of that this year. I got a little mineral brick. I'll show you these goodies. Little molasses mineral brick. I don't do a lot of this stuff anymore, but it's fun. My mom got it for me for Christmas. I love my mom. 83 years old. And still lets me come in here and do food plots. What a nice lady. Here, these are the clover seeds I'm using. It's the only thing I can get local. But this is Plot Spike. I've used it in the past. It is a blend, okay? And it does have a few nice little things, and it will show this back there. Crimson clover, Dixie style, crimson clover. We got some red clover, another kind of red clover, arrow leaf clover, white clover from Seminole, and some chicory, triggered chicory. Now, chicory is cool in case you have drought, something like that. Then in this bag, you might say, well, Rich, that's a lot of seed. What's in this mystery bag of seed? And I'm going to show you. And you guys who are old school, if you are an old school friend of Bunjie, you know what I'm saying? You've been around for a long time. Back in the days when I did like the banner food plots, I had world's greatest food plots here at one point. Foodplottery at its finest. And there was a time when I only planted one kind of clover. Only one kind. What was it? Do you know? It's in this bag, the mystery bag of clover. You know what that is? You old time friends of Bunjie who will know what these are. Oh, look at that. That's familiar and gorgeous. Makes me very happy to have a bag of that. Back in the good old days when the Kingdom of Bunjie was thriving, I had a Ranger, Polaris Ranger, and drove around this place with it. And I always had a bag of that with me. It was, in fact, I'm going to tell you at the end of this video. How's that? Surprise, but leave a comment if you know what that was in that bag. All right, I got about half of that raked out. I'm going to do the other half here in a second. You kind of see that behind me, what I've been doing. I brought the absolute worst rake for the job. I don't want that. I want a leaf rake for this. I don't know what I was thinking. Haven't done this in a year or two, you know, and I'm doing this one without Genevieve. Normally, she's the one that would be doing it, so she'd be saying, Dad, you want a leaf rake for this? But she has taxidermy work to do, so I can't be dragging her down here for this. Flip you around here. If you look at this, see how that's the bottom end, goes down the woods, and the doe that I shot here just last season, she and her little buddy, a little button buck, came up out of here. They fed on some hemlock nuts down here, or some kind of browse. I don't know, it's probably these little beech nuts, something like that, but they browsed a little bit, and then they came their way up through here, and they fed up through this food plot all the way up top. And when they got to the top at 30 yards, I shot them. And the food plot last year was ryegrass, a mixture of that. And people are like, oh, ryegrass is terrible. But man, if you look at this, notice how the only thing left in this food plot, it's just chickweed. Ryegrass is not a desirable food plot crop, other than the fact that it grows extremely well. And in a place like this where the neighbors didn't plant any crops, okay, it was attractive to deer because it's the only thing around. We don't have a lot of oaks in this region, okay. I've got a lot of oaks I planted, but they aren't dropping acorns yet. So this was an attractive food plot. It was their primary source. 2 food plots that I did, that I planted in a throw and grow blend of ryegrass. I really do believe that oats and winter wheat and all those other things, and the rye, cereal rye, those are more attractive food plot crops. But this is a bag that I bought at Tractor Supply for $10, and you throw it on the ground and it grows. And I always put the lime with it and the fertilizer and stuff too. So it was very productive. I top seeded that with a little bit of clover that is still here, still poking through. You can see some of it there. There is clover already in this plot, so clover is already growing. Here's the trick with a food plot, right? The ryegrass sucked all the nitrogen out of here. That means that clover is going to be a better pick for this season, I believe, because I'm rotating crops. When we talk about fertilizers, it's NPK, right? So it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Clover likes the potassium. It likes the tail end of that, and actually puts some of the nitrogen back in to the soil. The ryegrass and your brassicas and your turnips and all those, and the corn, all those things really like the nitrogen. So it's a good rotation. I'll put the clover in here maybe 1-2 seasons if I can get it to stay, if I can get it to grow past all this chickweed that's growing in here. And if that's the case, then we'll be able to cultivate it, right? Keep seeding it. I keep a little extra, and every time I come into the woods to check cameras or put up a blind or something, I'll throw a little seed on any of the bald spots in here and keep it growing up with the clover throughout the season, and hopefully it replenishes. The nice thing about clover is, even on a small plot like this, the deer will hit it. They'll hit it hard all season long, but it can fight back. Okay, I always say that clover has been living with deer, and deer have been living with clover for millions of years, and they are very beneficial to each other. You don't have to convince deer to eat clover, all right? It's in their DNA. They know that clover is good for them. They know clover is a tasty, healthy food source, and you plant clover, they'll continue to eat it. But the two work in this symbiotic relationship. I guess that's the right word, maybe. But they work together very well because clover can rebound to the browse pressure of the deer. It actually grows back, right? You grow your soybeans. For the most part, your soybeans, once the deer eat it, they're gone, right? Got an apple tree, it drops an apple, they eat the apple, it's done. If you plant corn, they eat the corn cobs, it's done. You get the picture, right? This is the cool thing about clover. It's the first thing to green up in the spring. It's the last thing to go dormant in the fall. They can eat it all year long. It grows back the whole time. And over the winter, they'll even dig it up and eat the roots. And all that does, this is what's cool about clover. All that does is make the clover respond even more, right? They're digging up the roots, eating the roots, and the clover's like, man, we really got to put some more energy out there and put some more leaves out there because the deer are eating it. So it just grows more and more and produces more food for deer. It's fantastic. Clover is my favorite by far, my absolute favorite food plot crop. So there you go. That's my little spiel about clover. Now, this plot is oval shaped. It is running east to west. I want to talk about that a little bit too. The sun comes up behind me. You can see it right there. Actually, the sun's coming up. Now, this is your spring sun, your March sun, right? It's March 22 today, but the sun's going to go across over there. In the summertime, sun's going to go right over my head, right across here, right straight above us here in northeastern Pennsylvania. That's a good lineup for this food plot because it allows the plot to get maximum sunlight. I'm still going to hack and squirt, go through and kill some of these trees along the boundary, the southern boundary, to get a little bit more light on that side of the plot. But the sun going this way, okay, I'm going to turn you this way. It goes right like this, right over my head, okay? By doing that, the sun is getting maximum sunshine down here into the plot. Clover will love that. Clover does okay without maximum sunshine, but this is in the woods, lots of trees, so you're not going to get as much sunshine as you might out in the field. That's the difference. So having the food plot going this way is beneficial if you're in an area where you need more sunlight. having the lengthwise of your food plot go east to west. On the other hand, if it's a really dry area where you're putting in your food plot, you might want to run your food plot the other way, okay? Going north-south, lengthwise. And the reason for that is it will get less sunlight and preserve some more of that moisture. You'd have to be a little bit more selective about what you plant in there, because pretty much anything that deer eat, they got to have some sunlight. You just can't, short of ryegrass, you can grow ryegrass in the cellar, you know, that kind of thing. But for the most part, most of the crops are going to want some sunlight. Clover is no exception. It does better with sunlight, but it does well without it too. It does well. I've grown clover in this plot before and I'll throw a picture up. I'm so proud of my pictures of my food plots back in the day, and I'll throw a picture of that up here. I've grown some banner clover food plots here, so it can be done even without opening this up. But I do want to increase the tonnage. That's a food plot term. That means the amount of clover that we're producing, the amount of food here for deer. I do want to increase that. And to do that, I got to get rid of some of these trees. So a future video will show me doing some hack and squirting. Okay, we'll go through here and kill those trees. Oh, there's a deer. There's a deer. Holy cow. Look at that. I'm sitting here doing a food plot and there's a deer. Can you see it? Oh, look at that. How awesome is that? I'm sitting here talking and that deer is just moseying through. It's all alone. I wonder if it's a buck. How does that deer not know that I'm here? For what it's worth, I am going to put a tree stand down there on the ridge, and I'm not a very good cameraman. I'm watching the deer instead of watching the camera. I am going to put a tree stand down there on that ridge. Oh, there's another one over here. Holy cow, look at this. Can you see that deer? There's another one right, but man, if I could do a better job with the camera. There's another one right there in that hemlock. Maybe it'll move. Can you see that deer inside that hemlock? Right there in that little cluster of hemlocks. There's a deer in there. Oh, I just saw a tail. See it? Oh, she's running. Okay, that one's running off. That one's getting out of dodge. Let's see what the other one does. The other one is just moseying down. Over. I'm doing a terrible job with the camera, and I'm sorry. Yeah, the other one's just moseying away. Check that out. That is the coolest thing ever. I'm just sitting here talking to you out loud, you know, using my camera voice, using my video voice, talking really loud. And they just came up here now. This fawn, it's still over there trotting away. I can see it. Can you see it? Can you see it over in there? What's that? And that one's just going back to the swamp, I think, but walking about 2 miles an hour. Well, I'm just sitting here doing this video, and they came right up over the bank. They must not have heard me because they're coming up over the bank, but she's probably 50 yards is all. Right there when I first saw her, and she didn't know I was here, and I was sitting here talking. That's awesome. What a day. What a perfect day. It's hard to top that. One other little tip on the food plot when it comes to putting the seed on. I'm going to put the seed on nice and even, but real heavy throughout the entire food plot. Then I will walk over the entire food plot. Walk over it with the lime and apply the lime. And I will do the same thing walking over the food plot and applying the fertilizer, spinning all of that out. So I'll get like a lot of traffic on top of the seeds, beating it down and all that good stuff. Seed to soil contact, that's what we're looking for here. We've got a lot of rain coming, so that will work. Once I spin all this on there, it'll be fantastic. But I'm going to put the fertilizer and the lime on heavier at the top than at the bottom. And my theory is two things. One is that as it rains real heavy over the next couple of days, some of that stuff will break down and it will gradually leak down this plot because it slopes downhill a little bit. So by putting it on a little heavier at the top, it will eventually find its way into the soil on its way down the hill over time. Okay, not just this rainstorm, but future rainstorms as well. The other thing that I'm going to do, the reason I do that is Hopefully it makes the top end a little bit more palatable. In other words, the deer will like it a little bit more. And the reason for that is you can see my bench up there. See that bench leaning against a tree right up over there? Right there. That bench, that's the Margaret, you know, the big old slab of button ball that I put up there. And I leave that out all year long. It won't rot if I don't stand it up like that. But that will be ready for a blind, and that's where the blind is located. That's where I shot from. And actually the doe that I shot was probably standing, heck, pretty close to right here. So that's a shot that I made with Bunjie the third last year, if you can see that bench right up there. So I made that shot to here, and then she ran down there over the bench. Basically, she came up over the hill right where those other deer just did. Pretty cool. So Bunjie the third and I, maybe the original Bunjie, who knows? Maybe Genevieve and Bunjie Jr. will sit up there in a blind this year. And by keeping the fertilizer up on the top end of this food plot, the cool thing about that is that it becomes a little more palatable. So they just have to make their way up to the top end of the food plot and get closer to the blind. They just have to, you know, it's because that's just how it works. So back to work. All right, the raking is now done to my satisfaction, and that is the only level of satisfaction that matters. Basically, seed to soil contact, friends of Bunjie, that's all I'm looking for here. Not looking for putting in a brand new yard or anything like that, you understand. Now, if Genevieve were here, her attention to detail would mean that there wouldn't be a leaf left in this entire food plot. I'm not worried about that. I just want some open spots to get that clover going. The extra leaves will help protect it a little bit, keep turkeys off it, keep the birds off it until it takes root. And as it makes its way up, I can fill in any bare spots later on with a little bit more seed. I'm also going to have to treat all this chickweed with, I'm thinking, slay. And I hope slay will kill chickweed and not clover. I know it doesn't kill clover, but arrest and slay are two little chemicals that I have that I use on clover food plots with great success in the past. I had some residual ryegrass grow up in the well pad food plots years ago, the well pad food plot, and it got to be a foot tall, and I was worried. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to control this. It's gonna choke my clover right out of here. I ended up spraying that when it was a foot tall. It was tasseling out in the spring, early summer, and it died. I actually had a great clover food plot in there that fall. So hopefully that'll work this year too. Look at that. That's a clover seed, a little plot spike, whatever brand that happens to be. One little tip, make sure you put it on a 1. Clover seeds are so small that if you open that up to like a 2 through a 5, it's really going to come out of there full steam. Secondly, always put your pants down over your boots. You're going to regret it if you have your pants tucked into your boots. You will take home about 1 pound of clover seed in your boots. So to avoid that, put the pants down over the boots. You don't get tips like that just anywhere now, do you? Just right here on Death by Bunjie. All right, if you look there, you can see we had pretty good success. That's a pretty good spin job right there. Quite a bit of clover. That's about 5 pounds. I think that was a little 5-pound bag. Where is that bag? Check that and see how many pounds that was. I don't even remember. Doesn't really matter because I put the whole bag on here. That's just how I roll. 4 pounds. 4 pounds of clover. See, 4 pounds. Yay, 4 pounds. 4 pounds of clover seed, chicory, etc. That will really start to compete with all this chickweed, hopefully, and get rid of it. I am going to take my handy spinner here that did a great job, take this little dude up here, and I'm going to just put a touch more on. Now I have 10 pounds in this bag that I told you about, the mystery bag, and I am going to put a touch of the mystery seed in my little spinner. Oh, one little update too, by the way. This really like 2, not 1. I misled you. I gave you bad advice, and I'm sorry for that. Hopefully you get something out of the advice here on Death by Bunjie, and you get something out of these little videos if you're doing food plots or interested in that. Maybe it even inspires you to go put in a food plot. But I am going to spin on just a little bit more of this other seed. It is a white clover, and it is, for those of you who are old-time friends of Bunjie, It is a Ladino white clover. Straight white Ladino. That's what I put on here, or Ladino, depending on how you prefer to say it. So I'm going to put that in here and spin on about a pound or so of that, just to give it a little extra Death by Bunjie touch. Careful, don't spill any. We got some pelletized lime. It'll break down the soil a little bit, help that clover seed get in there. As I'm putting it on, I'll be walking back and forth across that seed and sort of stamping it down into the chickweed a little bit. It'll help raise the pH. We're in the middle of the woods. I don't do a soil test here. I know the soil's bad. I know it's very, very sour and in need of remediation. So we got to put in some lime here to improve the soil. And pelletized lime acts relatively quickly and will act over the course of the spring as this clover is trying to take root. Then, when I'm done with that, I'm going to go through here with the 21040 and put that on here nice and thick. So I got 50 pounds of lime, 50 pounds of 21040 fertilizer, and we should be good to go. I could just stop right here with the clover seed, right? Could just do that. It would grow. And frankly, it's a fact that I could probably do nothing to this, put a blind up there and still shoot a deer here. I'm not kidding. Like, there's enough native vegetation and the chickweed would be attractive enough to probably pull one deer out of here. But I really consider foodplottery to be a fun pastime. I'm having the time of my life here, doing this with hand tools. I dragged all this stuff in here on a sled, by the way, a plastic sled. So I'm not carrying it back out. It's easy to bring it in because it's downhill. The other thing I'm going to do, I found a good use for all those masks that I got left over from the pandemic. So I bought a box of masks way back 2 years ago, right? And that's all dirty already, but I'm going to wear that. This lime, when you're spreading that, the powder from that is caustic. It is awful. Don't get that in your lungs. You don't want to breathe it. So I'm going to spread that with a little mask on, go through, put 50 pounds of that on, see where we're at. All right, can you still hear me? I'm all muffled probably, but 5. We put it on 5 for the lime and the fertilizer. The faster that stuff comes out of there, the better. All 50 pounds are going on here, and like I said, I'm gonna put most of it on the upper end, let it leach down over the course of the spring, and hopefully fix the whole plot. How's that for some storage, huh? Some fertilizer storage. Woo! I am done with the installation of the Ridge staging food plot. I'm going to keep calling it that, whether it's a staging food plot or not, doesn't matter. But I put on half the fertilizer. I'm going to put the other half on in the summer. After I spray this lay and the rest, I will fertilize it again that same day, maybe give that clover a boost to overcome the weeds. And that way it'll get rid of the grasses and any chickweed. We'll spray that and kill all that stuff off, or most of it. I don't care if there's chickweed in here because the deer do eat it, but it's certainly better if I have more. The more clover, the better. So that's the plan. So I'm going to do that. I am done for the day. I was going to do another food plot. I was going to do the well pad food plot too, but I'll have to make another video about that. I'm kind of pooped. The hand tools, I will say this. I kind of miss the tractors, kind of miss the Ranger, kind of miss all that stuff. If you read my book, the Death by Bunjie crossbow story, you kind of know what happened to all that stuff. Go ahead and check that book out. It's a fun read. You can also get an audio book. Did you know that? How cool is that? And then you have to listen to my voice for like 8 hours if you get the audio book. So if you're into that, check that out on Amazon.com. Good place for that stuff. You can get a Kindle too. I think there's an electronic book, an ebook if you want to read that. Check those out. I do have another book I've been working on. That's why I haven't put on a lot of videos. All my free time goes to writing a book. So I got a new book coming out, hopefully this summer. So we'll have that done too, if you're interested. And that has some discussion of foodplottery in it. Can you believe that? That's pretty cool. So hopefully you got a kick out of this video. Hopefully it wasn't completely a waste of time. We got to see some deer. What I started to say was, now I do kind of miss the tractor and all the other power tools, but man, I'm down here with a rake, raking, using all hand tools. Didn't drive a four-wheeler in here. I pulled a sled in here with lime and whatnot on it. And that way I didn't spook the deer. I didn't disturb the woods too much. And I got to see a couple of deer in March. when I'm putting in a food plot. How awesome is that? I think that's fantastic. You realize we're going to be hunting spring gobbler here pretty soon? What a great world, huh? I hope you got a kick out of this. I hope you'll subscribe so you can see future videos here on Death by Bunjie. And until next time, all hail Bunjie.